Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here are some of today's top stories. House Speaker Johnson spoke outside the courthouse to support former President Trump, who again called the New York trial election interference. Voters in 3 states went to the polls today. We'll zoom in on what's at stake in the Maryland, Nebraska, and West Virginia primaries. On the West Coast, California's budget and spending are in the spotlight. What are the biggest budget cuts proposed? And how effective are the homelessness programs? First up, more on the so-called hush money trial. Former President Trump is back in court for another day. House Speaker Mike Johnson is also in court to show support for Trump.
I called President Trump and told him I wanted to be here myself to call out what is a travesty of justice, and I think everybody around the country can see that. President Trump is a friend, and I wanted to be here to support him. I'm here speaking with you outside because the court won't allow us to speak inside the building. That's just one of the many things that are wrong here. This is the 5th week that President Trump has been in court for this sham of a trial. They are doing this intentionally to keep him here and keep him off of the campaign trail.
Other than the House Speaker, several of Trump's potential running mates also joined him to show support. They include Vivek Ramaswamy, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and Congress members Byron Donalds and Corey Mills. The New York Appeals Court today denied Trump's latest request to end the gag order against him. Before going to the courtroom, Trump again called this trial election interference and maintained his innocence. Back in the courtroom, defense attorney Todd Blanche cross-examined the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, about negative comments he's made online and to news media about Trump and his lawyers. While Trump has a gag order against him over the course of the investigation and the case, Cohen made more than 20 television appearances. He has recorded hundreds of podcast episodes, 4 total episodes a week all year long, since the investigation for the trial started. Cohen agrees that he has mentioned Trump in every podcast. Cohen also said in court that he suffers from insomnia and turns to TikTok every night as an out, while living in a building with Trump's name on it. The Justice Department today asked the U.S. District Judge who oversees former Trump aide Steve Bannon's case to order Bannon to begin his prison sentence. Back in July 2022, Bannon was found guilty by a federal jury of 2 counts of contempt of Congress. That was for defying a subpoena by the now-defunct House January 6 committee. Last week, a federal appeals court upheld this conviction. The U.S. District Judge paused Bannon's sentence while the appeal played out. The Justice Department said in its court filing that Bannon should begin serving a 4-month prison sentence. It's still unclear when Bannon will report to prison. Peter Navarro, an ex-White House aide to former President Trump, began his prison sentence 2 months ago, making history the first former White House official to be imprisoned for a contempt of Congress conviction. Meanwhile, 2 top lawmakers in the House of Representatives are taking steps to hold the DOJ's top prosecutor, Attorney General Merrick Garland, in contempt of Congress. Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee Jim Jordan says Garland has failed to comply with the congressional subpoenas. Congressman James Comer has scheduled a hearing this week to advance a contempt resolution. Despite the subpoenas, the Department of Justice has declined to provide audio tapes of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. Hur said in his report that Biden intentionally kept and disclosed the classified materials after his vice presidency ended. The report also said Biden repeatedly consulted the documents after leaving office. The Department of Justice did not respond to a request for comment. A deadly crash involving a bus carrying farm workers in Florida this morning. Marion County Fire Rescue says 8 people have died and 45 others were injured, including 8 in critical condition. The crash involved a 2010 International bus and a 2001 Ford Ranger truck on West Highway 40. Florida Highway Patrol says that the 2 vehicles apparently sideswiped one another. The bus then drove off the road through a fence and overturned. The Marion County Sheriff's Office says West Highway 40 will remain closed for most of the day. The National Transportation Safety Board is monitoring the situation. Voters in 3 states, Maryland, Nebraska, and West Virginia, went to the polls today. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on what's at stake in the primaries, with the control of various state and federal offices on the line.
The contests for president will be largely uneventful, as former President Donald Trump and President Biden are already their party's presumptive nominees. In Maryland, voters will choose nominees for 8 U.S. House seats, a Senate seat, and their pick for president. The Senate contest is garnering interest, with popular former Republican Governor Larry Hogan entering the contest at the last minute. The dark blue state hasn't elected a Republican senator for nearly half a century, but Hogan has even led his Democratic rivals in some polls. Voters in West Virginia will also be selecting their nominees today. The big contest in the state is for the Senate. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin announced earlier this year that he won't be seeking re-election. President Trump won the state by nearly 40 points in 2020, so the odds are strong that Republicans could flip the seat. 2 Republicans are vying for their party's blessing to be the state's next senator: West Virginia Governor Jim Justice and Congressman Alex Mooney. Governor Justice is expected to cruise to an easy victory over Mooney. On the Democrat side, 3 West Virginians are competing for the nomination, but none have the storied history and name recognition of Manchin. Finally, voters in Nebraska will also head to the polls. The hottest race in the Republican-leaning state is that of Representative Don Bacon. The swing district he represents is a major battleground heading into the 2024 election. Bacon seems poised to win his re-election bid easily. The Democratic ticket, meantime, is uncontested, with Nebraska State Senator Tony Vargas hurtling towards a rematch with Bacon. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
California's governor is trying to close out the state's budget deficit for the next 2 years. But health officials don't want budget cuts, and lawmakers wonder whether the billions already spent on homelessness were effective. NTD's David Lamb reports.
California's Governor Gavin Newsom introduced a plan to close this year's remaining $27.6 billion shortfall and next year's projected $28.4 billion deficit. The biggest reduction is a $2 billion reduction in broadband, which are for projects that fund internet access across the state.
We've been stress testing our broadband strategy in the middle mile and the last mile, and we think we've come up with a plan to actually achieve similar goals at a lower cost. So we think it's appropriate to claw back those dollars without a diminution in terms of programming and advancing the commitments that we've made.
Other cuts in the governor's May revision proposal include $300 million in public health departments. But health officials push back on that, saying it's a step backward. And recently, some state officials questioned the state's homelessness council on spending and how effective it's been. Around $20 billion was spent addressing homelessness.
We spent billions of dollars, and you can't tell us at all how many people we've helped.
Apologies, I don't have the information in front of me to share.
You have it in your office?
Again, we're working through data quality issues in order to finalize the report.
In April, the state auditor's report found that the Homelessness Council has financial info covering its 2018 to 2021 fiscal year, but it has not continued to track and report this data since that time, despite the significant amount of additional funding the state awarded to these efforts in the past 2 years. The Council on Homelessness says the homeless programs have been evolving and the data should be available in a few weeks. As for the budget, the California Finance Department told NTD the proposal still protects core programs from large cuts. The expansion of healthcare under Medi-Cal to all residents is not reduced, and no cuts are proposed to the support levels for the state's Welfare to Work program. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Job search site Indeed says it will lay off about 1,000 workers. The company's CEO made the announcement on Monday. NTD's Jason Blair has the story.
According to a letter sent to employees on Monday, Indeed is letting go of about 8% of its workforce, or about 1,000 employees. According to the letter, employees in the U.S. are going to be the most affected. And this comes about 1 year after the company laid off about 15% of its workforce, or 2,200 employees, back in March of 2023. Now, back then, the company said that it was more about cost savings as the main reason. However, this year's CEO, Chris Hyams, is saying that it's more about simplifying the company. In the letter, he said, quote, "Because we need to simplify our organization to make it easier and faster for us to make decisions and help us to more effectively grow revenue and hires." Then later on in the letter, he said, "As difficult as these decisions are, our new structure will help us to simplify and work more effectively as one team, reunite growth and revenue, and drive toward our 2030 goal of helping 100 million people get jobs." And according to the letter, employees were notified roughly about an hour after the notice was sent out. Jason Blair, NTD News.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. An Orange County Marathon winner was stripped of his title. The race director shares more on the events leading up to the runner's disqualification. Waymo autonomous vehicles are under investigation. Federal investigators say they received multiple reports of crashes involving Waymo cars. The new NCAA Football video game is coming out this summer. College athletes included in the series could get paid. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. The winner of a Southern California marathon was disqualified after race officials determined that he accepted water from a cyclist during the race. NTD's Christina Corona has more details from the race director.
Esteban Prado, 24, was the winner of the Hogue Orange County Marathon this month after he finished the 26.2-mile course in 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 54 seconds. However, it wasn't long afterward that he learned he was disqualified from the race. Prado was disqualified after he received unauthorized assistance from individuals on bicycles who gave him fluids during the marathon.
And assistance is not just drinking. Assistance can be pacing. Illegal pacing is someone riding beside you. In addition to that, it's receiving information. So they could be saying, hey, the guy's catching you or not.
Footage from the lead cyclist's GoPro shows Prado receiving assistance multiple times during the marathon.
And so when you're able to get a drink of water on your terms as opposed to having to wait to the water station, it does make a difference.
According to the USA Track and Field Rulebook, runners may only drink water from official hydration stations or if it's carried or attached to them from the beginning of the race. Esteban Prado informed media outlets that due to being in first place, many volunteers were scrambling, leading to inadequate support at the water stations during the race. However, Kuchar said their water stations were prepared and ready before the race started. Footage shows Prado running past at least 3 workers who extended their arms to offer water bottles before he met up with the bicyclist. Upon receiving the evidence, Kuchar says he didn't have any other choice but to disqualify Prado.
Once I knew I had this information from my lead cyclist that then became video proof of what was happening, I think there would have been a story on the other side that I didn't disqualify someone who was illegally receiving this assistance.
And after he communicated the news to Prado,
he accepted it quite easily when he did. It wasn't like it was, we didn't argue about it at all. He kind of made it sound like, he knew that he still won the race.
However, Jason Yang of San Pedro is now declared the men's marathon winner, finishing the race in 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 11 seconds. He was only 17 seconds behind Prado. Winning the OC Hogue Marathon does not come with any prize money, nor do the finishing times qualify runners for the Olympics. Christina Corona, NTD News.
The U.S. government's Highway Safety Agency has opened another investigation of automated driving systems, this time into crashes involving Waymo's self-driving vehicles.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration posted documents detailing its findings on its website on Tuesday after getting 22 reports of Waymo vehicles either crashing or doing something that may have violated traffic laws. In the past month, the agency has opened at least 4 investigations of vehicles that can either drive themselves or take on at least some driving functions. The agency said it has reports of 17 crashes and 5 other reports of possible traffic law violations. No injuries were reported. In the crashes, the Waymo vehicles hit stationary objects such as gates, chains, or parked cars. Some incidents happened shortly after the Waymo driving system behaved unexpectedly near traffic control devices. In a statement to NTD, Waymo said they are proud of their performance and commitment to safety transparency, and that NHTSA plays a very important role in road safety, and we will continue to work with them as part of our mission to become the world's most trusted driver. Since late April, the federal agency has opened investigations into collisions involving self-driving vehicles run by Amazon-owned Zoox, as well as partially automated driver assist systems offered by Tesla and Ford. NHTSA is also investigating General Motors' Cruise autonomous vehicle unit after getting reports that the vehicles may not have used proper caution around pedestrians. Cruise recalled its cars to update software after one of them dragged a pedestrian to the side of a San Francisco street in early October.
In the latest violence on the Los Angeles transit system, 2 people have been stabbed in 2 separate incidents on the Los Angeles County Metro. NTD's Christina Corona provides more details on the story.
A stabbing was reported at approximately 7:30 p.m. on Monday following a fight on a Metro bus in Glendale. The bus driver alerted police who arrested 2 juveniles. The victim, also a juvenile, was taken to the hospital with a non-life-threatening injury. One individual involved in the incident is still at large. Hours later, a woman was stabbed inside an elevator at a Metro station in South Los Angeles. The incident occurred at the Green Line Metro station, located at the intersection of South Vermont Avenue and the 105 freeway. Deputies from the LA County Sheriff's Department responded to the scene around 9 p.m. The victim was transported to a hospital and is reported to be in stable condition. The male suspect, last seen wearing all black, fled on a westbound train towards Hawthorne. Investigators have not yet found the suspect. Monday's attacks come after a series of violent incidents, including a fatal stabbing in Studio City and a bus driver stabbing in South Los Angeles. These incidents have prompted Metro bus drivers to stage a sick-out, and one Metro board member expressed fear, stating she would not ride the system alone. The board has approved the installation of plexiglass barriers for all Metro buses to enhance driver safety. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Joining us now is NTD's Carlos Reyes to talk about college football's anticipated return to the digital realm. Carlos, what's the latest scoop on the video game called EA Sports College Football 25?
Thanks for having me, David. It's indeed an exciting time for gamers and college football enthusiasts alike. EA Sports is pulling out all the stops with College Football 2025, set to hit the shelves this summer. After an 11-year hiatus, fans are eagerly anticipating its return.
Now, I understand that EA Sports is opening up the option for players from all 134 Football Bowl subdivision programs to have their likeness featured in the game. What's the deal with that?
Absolutely, David. This is a significant move by EA Sports all around. They're allowing players to opt in for their digital avatars to be included in the game. Each player who opts in will receive $600 and a copy of the game as compensation. It's a step towards addressing the previous legal concerns regarding the use of college athletes' names and likeness.
So why the name change from NCAA football to college football?
Well, David, the name change stems from the legal complexities surrounding the use of college athletes' names and likeness without compensation, which led to the discontinuation of the NCAA Football series in 2014 by EA Sports. EA Sports decided to rebrand the series as College Football to navigate the legal waters while still delivering the beloved gameplay experience fans know and love.
And what's the response been like from the schools? Are they all on board?
Well, it's been a bit of a mixed bag, David. While EA and the college licensing company reached out to 118 of the 134 schools, not every one of them agreed to participate. This could be due to various reasons, including concerns over compensation or other factors. But overall, there's still a considerable number of schools eager to be a part of the game.
Now let's talk numbers. How's the compensation looking for the players?
Well, the compensation package is certainly drawing attention, David. EA reportedly offered a total of $5 million upfront to athletes, averaging at about $600 per player. However, there are rumblings among some athletes who are holding out for some substantial compensation, ranging from $800 to even $1.5 million. It's indicative of the ongoing discussion surrounding fair compensation for college athletes across the nation.
Right, quite the negotiation game indeed. And lastly, any insights on what fans can expect in terms of gameplay and features?
Oh, well, there's plenty to look forward to, David. With the game built off the Madden engine, fans can expect smooth gameplay and stunning visuals. Plus, EAA is going all out with unique assets for each university, including authentic playbooks, mascots, and even traditions. And let's not forget about the classic game models like Dynasty and Road to Glory, which are making a return that was much anticipated. It's shaping up to be a true celebration of college football culture.
Well, thanks for the breakdown, Carlos. It looks like College Football 25 is going to be a game changer in terms of athlete compensation at the collegiate levels.
No problem, David. Thank you for having me.
All right, stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. A blacklisted Chinese firm taking on the U.S. government. What we know about its lawsuit against the U.S. More on China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.